Welcome back to Without a Doubt, the podcast where we celebrate living life authentically and organically as ourselves. We're the ones who believe in creating our own paths and living our truths out loud. Join in on an honest and open conversation about self-discovery and growth. I'm your girl Mad, your host, and a freelance entrepreneur, a 30-something-year-old human who has never exactly done what is expected of me. I'm a sprinkle of reality, glimmer of sunshine, and as unfiltered as they come. And I'm here to remind you that it's okay to do life different. That you don't have to be what is expected of you and that your happiness, it matters. 100% of these podcast episodes come from things going on in my life, like in my current life, my feelings, thoughts, and how I think through them and how I want to move through them. This is my outlet to do it. So oddly enough, my intro into this podcast talks about how I've never exactly done what is expected of me, and I'm reminding you that you don't have to live out your life with other people's expectations weighing on you. We expect our jobs to pay us, just like they expect us to do our work. In exchange, you get a paycheck. When I worked at Orange Theory, I was a fitness coach for over 6 years. I racked up the classes. When I hit 1,000 classes, I had expected to get like a 1,000 class plaque, which they did at a lot of other studios, and I didn't. And I was actually very disappointed. That expectation kind of like made me feel like, wow, do they really care about me? But in reality, it was my job to teach the classes. Like, why did I need a trophy for that? I got a paycheck to teach my classes. We expect our car to run when it has gas in it. We expect the grocery store to carry milk. These are the expectations of things that we know. But what happens when humans have expectations of others? What about the timeline expectation? The school, career, love, marriage, kids, the bullshit expectation of that timeline. Or the one that you made up that, oh, by the time you're 30, you'll be married with kids or have a house and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, fuck that. What happens when your expectations are just like not met? You're going to be generally upset, disappointed, feeling low. Maybe your self-worth, self-confidence, all of that takes a toll. When you go to see your favorite football team and maybe they're undefeated and you bought a ticket for this game because you know that they've been crushing it and then they lose, you're disappointed. Or what if you plan a super cool vacation and you get an excursion and you buy the excursion for whale watching and the weather sucks, so you can't go. You're going to be bummed out. You had expectations, like when you put your money into stocks, thinking it'll grow, but then the stock market crashes. It's all about what we expect, how we manage those expectations based on what we want. What does it mean to manage your expectations? And according to Google, managing expectations means communicating so that all parties have a clear understanding of what to expect and when to expect it. It also requires keeping communications open. You can have expectations. People can have them about you. They can be something that's an expectation in meeting goals, following rules, or just an overall bar that is set for each person in whatever area of life. Expectations are the strong belief that something will happen or be the case. More than anything else, our expectations actually determine the reality. And our expectations also impact those around us. Our expectations also impact our mood, energy, and vibe. In a self-fulfilling prophecy, people will rise or fall depending on expectations or beliefs. Most times, expectations lead to disappointment. It's true. But most times, expectations actually lead to disappointment. I Googled this today as usual, doing some research, and the ideas in most articles coming up were like, how expectations lead to disappointment. My mom says she swears she's the one who told me this quote, but I think it was my grandma, and she always says that expectations will lead to disappointment. And I think it's truly why I have such low expectations for things. I really don't expect a lot from other people, and I think that's part of the reason why I do not ask for help, and I do a lot of things on my own, and I say all the time, like, people have their own lives, people are doing their own thing. That is something that I truly understand because my expectation is I'm doing my own thing, and you should expect that I'm doing my own thing. First off, putting expectations on others can sometimes feel like laying an entire bucket of wet cement on someone and telling them, this is what is to be done. How can we expect something of someone if maybe that's not even something they expect of themselves? Or they don't know that greatness from themselves? That's a lot of the time. We expect things of people because we know or think they are capable, but they don't think or expect that of themselves. I think this is why it's most important that we're living out our lives our own way. Means no gaslighting from family about what you can or what they can or what, who, what, when, where. Everybody should just be doing you. And if you can, great. If you can't match other people's expectations, oh well. You have to be the truest version of yourself, and that's going to be hard. Especially when maybe you were raised like I was in a very open family. Everyone has outward voices of what they want us to be. My dad, who was a professional waiter, who conned people and did things that were not really the best. My dad wasn't great, wasn't really a part of my life. He always told me I needed to be a lawyer. And he was like, you should be a lawyer. You should be a lawyer. And like, because I like to talk, like, why didn't you tell me I should be on radio? Why didn't I always talk about these things? Like, that was an expectation of my dad. I think he thought it would be so cool to have a kid that maybe was a lawyer, but that's like one thing I always think about. We all have that expectation that our parents lay on us or what other people may have said to you, even about like your own character. We have expectations of who we are, ourselves, and how we want to show face to the world. Our own expectations of what we want to be and how we show up is how we actually end up building our own self-confidence. If we always succumb to other people's expectations and do what other people want, that eventually would lead to becoming a people pleaser. And for that, I don't really find you'll find a lot of fulfillment in your own life if you're constantly doing things for others and never for you. We as humans put a ton of pressure not only on other people, but ourselves. I think a lot of people are always concerned about like how other people will view them, but how do you actually view yourself? What expectations do you hold yourself to? And are you proud of who you are? The expectations from others sometimes are like blown up fallacies or whatever in their minds. Their expectations. They're expectant of us to do things that we might not even think we're capable of, like I said before. Others' expectations of us may be along the lines of them thinking their thing, event, themselves, whatever is more important because it's them. In their world, they are bigger. Their expectation is they are that. And even if it wasn't, their expectation is that it will come first. But let me remind you that we come first. You come first. I come first. Ourselves. Bottom line comes first. Do you see where I'm going with this? Every single person has their own expectation. We put our expectations first. We do that as a human. That's a naturalistic thing. Every day, what we want and how we want the day to go, how we expect it, it's our own expectation. Your expectations will never be met if you never clearly state them. And I think alongside this, we offer to do things a lot of times without knowing the whole expectation from the other party or within the offer. Like, we need to ask questions before we start offering because you never know what the other person's expectation might be. And it could be totally different from what you even had in mind. Have you ever heard your crisis is not their crisis? I learned this probably 2 years ago. And it's basically like what's going on in your life is not what's on fire in other people's lives. My HOA president told me this once, and she apologized for not being there for me when I had water coming down the walls of my house due to roof leaks and a re-roof. I needed her to sign off on tarping up the buildings, and she was unavailable. She actually reached out to me after, and she was finding out all the information, and she was like, I am so sorry. That crisis was not my crisis, and I didn't realize how bad that was. But let me tell you, let's flip this. My expectation was that she should have helped. She's the president right off the bat, no questions asked, but she was on vacation. Her expectation was there are other board members. You can do the job. And I think that's one of those things. Her expectation, our expectation, my expectation, this expectation, everybody has something in this pot of expectations. I think this is where everybody needs to start learning how to maybe manage expectations, and like this is really important. Learning to manage expectations involves setting realistic goals, communicating effectively, being adaptable to change. And I'm going to talk about a couple of steps that we can do to improve our own expectation management skills. Number one, define clear goals. Clearly define what you can expect from yourself and what you're going to give, but also make sure you know the goal from everybody, what the expectation is from the opposite party. Setting specific, achievable goals can help you manage expectations effectively. If you're offering help, know the terms, and if you need the help, you should be the one to lay it out, so everyone knows what the fuck is actually going on. Most people assume and make their own stories up about what they will do versus what maybe you want them to do, so having a clear communicated goal is going to be the end game to eliminate that. Also, number 2, communicate openly. Talk about your expectations, which I just said, lay them out. Talk about them. We all have different expectations of others. I think that's like where partnerships and things come in. And it's like, you can be honest with your partner because it's your partner, but we have to make sure we're listening to everybody and their expectations so that we're all aligned. Learning how to nicely communicate without bashing someone or gaslighting them when they don't meet your expectations is key. Like, you cannot have a temper tantrum when something is not going your way. You're an adult, and most times things are not going to go your way. Life just doesn't hand everything to you that easy. And that's where being flexible, number 3, is super important. Understand that unexpected circumstances might arise and be willing to adjust to that. And flexibility is key to effective expectation management. Like, not everyone's going to have the same expectation, as I keep saying. I work for a catering company, and I mentioned this in my last episode. She's a boss-ass bitch, but I love when she tells some people, do that nice. She'll tell the bartender, set up your bar nice. But everyone has a different expectation of nice. So sometimes the bartender will set it up, and she'll be like, okay, we need to fix this. This is not nice. And I think this is where you need to say, this is what I expect of you. If you don't always know something, if you don't know what the expectation is of you, maybe just ask. Maybe that's something that the bartender could have done too, if you don't know what nice is, Learn, be flexible, and bend. You don't have to be set in your ways, but if you can clearly communicate why you like something a certain way or why you expect it a certain way, the other person will have a better understanding and more flexibility to do so. Sometimes shit won't work out the way anyone expects it. As I said before, it usually doesn't. So you just gotta fucking roll with it, okay? Overall expectations sometimes suck. I try not to walk into situations with any expectations because I have had my fair share of disappointments. I also think that walking into something with lower expectations will allow you to be more bendy, but also leave you feeling more gratified. A quote from Julia Glass says, "I'd rather be pleasantly surprised than fatally disappointed." End of the story here is lower your expectations, period. You are without a doubt a badass. Don't you forget it. I'm leaving you here with this. XOXO, your girl Mad. I will see you next week. Let me remind you also, if you have any topics that maybe you want to share, send them to me in my DMs. You can also send me an email at itsyourgirlmad@gmail.com. I'm on YouTube and Instagram at Without a Doubt the Podcast, and I hope you give me a 5-star review. Sharing this with your people is how I keep going. Share it. The more listens, the more motivated I feel, and I can't wait to see you. Bye.